people are irrational. Other people may see and perceive some of the things in a completely different way from yours, and this is basically the main reason why you need A/B testing in the first place. As a marketer, I've done all possible mistakes when it comes to A/B testing and different kinds of experimentations, and I decided to dig deeper into the topic to collect the most effective tips and to share them with you. We're gonna discuss why your A/B tests typically fail. We're gonna go through the step-by-step process of planning and running an A/B test. We're going to discuss some of the really crucial aspects of any A/B testing campaign, for example, statistical significance and why you need to pay special attention to it. At the end, we're going to discuss one aspect that is typically never discussed in any educational material on the topic, and this is how to run an A/B test for a website with low traffic. I'm sure this will be relevant to most of you guys, so let's go. So what is actually A/B testing? This is a marketing analysis method that helps you identify the difference in data between two variables of the same product. Your product can be, for example, your website, your ad creative, your newsletter. The list is endless. The main goal of A/B testing is to see the statistical difference between two or sometimes more variables and to see which of them can bring you better business results. And before we start talking about how to create an A/B test step by step, one important thing that you have to take into consideration. Typically 9 out of 10 hypotheses and logically A/B tests fail. So make sure you have the right attitude before kicking off your A/B testing campaign. So, how to run an A/B test step by step. Take a piece of paper and write down the following steps. First of all, of course, you have to come up with a hypothesis. And how exactly can you do that? Of course, there is no point in, jotting down some sentences for the sake of coming up with some hypotheses that don't make any sense, right? One of the best ways is to see the current gaps in your analytics. Pro tip, go to the funnel reports in Google Analytics and see which stage of your funnel gives poor performance. And another way is usability testing. For example, you may end up in a situation where your users complain about a certain feature or they request a certain feature. And first, you have to run an A/B test to actually confirm whether this feature will make sense. Will it actually bring any results to your bottom line? Moving on, your hypothesis should be well formulated and unambiguous. For example, a new red add to basket button will bring more conversions than a yellow button, or a personalized subject line will bring higher open rates than a non-personalized one. How to prioritize hypothesis? You may end up in a situation where you've written down, 20 different hypotheses, and especially if you work on a marketing team with little resources, you simply won't have time to run all of these tests. I think the most famous model is called ICE model, which basically means that you rate each of your hypotheses based on 3 key metrics. The first one is impact, then confidence and ease. So you give a rating based on the business impact this experiment will make to your business. Then on the confidence, so how confident you are to run this kind of experiment, and the ease, how easy and realistic it is for you based on your current resources and wishes, for example. As soon as you're clear on your hypothesis, I prefer writing down the buyer persona or the target customer to whom this hypothesis is aimed for. I feel that this is really important to have things like that well documented, because if you can't really label a certain persona to your experiment, it means that most likely it doesn't make sense at all and you don't have to spend time on that. The next thing is to decide on the type of content that you're going to use for this experiment. This will help you to allocate resources better. Let's say you decided to run 2 different ad creatives and to compare, for example, your video ad versus static image ad. In that case, you'll have to see if it's realistic for your team to make a video ad at the moment, or what kind of visual material you need to create for the version B. KPIs. How exactly are you going to measure the success of your A/B test? Again, your KPI can be really different depending on the goal of your A/B test. It can be conversion rate, can be click-through rate, can be, I don't know, sales, or let's say NPS score of your customers. Channels. The next thing is to plan the channels that you're going to use for running your A/B test. Why is this important? Again, simply to make sure you have enough resources, because let's say that you figured out that you would need to run your A/B test on Facebook, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn at the same time. In that case, you'll have to prepare creatives with the dimensions that work for each channel separately. And in that case, you have to plan it well in advance. The next step, minimal data sample size. It's really important to have a healthy sample size when making decisions. Why? Here's a simple explanation. Let's say that you run your A/B test by using a really small group of people, say 100 users only. And you discover that version A brings much more conversions than version B. But since your sample size is too small, there is a high chance that it happened simply by chance. And if you decide to use the learnings of this A/B test and stick to the best performing version and scale it up, so show it to a larger audiences, there is a really high chance that you're not going to achieve the same result. So you'll simply waste your time and your resources. But how exactly can you identify the right data sample size? There are tons of online calculators available for that. To me, the most easy to use one is the one from Optimizely. Let's check together actually how it works. So this is our A/B test sample size calculator. As you can see, there are 3 key parameters that you have to insert yourself, and then the tool will automatically show you the right sample size for you. The first one is baseline conversion rate. If you're not sure what to add there, I highly recommend you checking out the performance of your previous campaigns. For example, you want to run your A/B test on, let's say, Facebook ads. So at this point, you might want to check out your typical or average conversion rate on your Facebook ads. Let's say that in our case, it's 2%. So we are aiming to get a conversion rate of 2%. The next step is minimum detectable effect, which means that this is the minimum relative change in conversion rate that we would be happy to detect. Pay attention to the fact that this is a relative change. Let's say that we would be quite satisfied with a relative change of 50%. And the next point is statistical significance. As you can see, the higher the statistical significance is, the larger our sample size gets. And that's why it might be super tempting to kind of try to crank down our statistical significance. However, let's think about this way. Statistical significance of, say, 80% might seem quite okay, right? But once you actually rationally think over it, it might be super risky. In a nutshell, your statistical significance will show what's the likelihood of having the same result if you repeat the same A/B test. And for example, if we compare a statistical significance of 85% and say 99%, in the first case, in 85% of our repetitions, we're going to have the same result. However, if we chose a statistical significance of 99%, it means that in 99% of the cases of running this test over and over again, we'll face the same results. So I think it's a no-brainer that the higher statistical significance is, the more reliable your results are. So let's say that we choose 89% for this case, and we got 3,000 users per variation. Take into account that this is per variation. The next step in our A/B testing journey planning is to indicate the journey stage. Why is this important? For example, let's say that right now your marketing team is mainly focused on brand awareness campaigns and on the top of the funnel, which means that if your A/B test mainly links to bottom of the funnel or middle of the funnel, it's not the right time to run it at the moment, and you don't need to prioritize it, and perhaps you don't need to focus on that at all at the moment. The next step is the most exciting one. Everything is ready and you simply run your A/B test, kick back and relax. And at this point, try to avoid the most typical mistake. It is the so-called peaking problem. Happens when you try to kind of artificially adjust your results to confirm your desired hypothesis and to see what you actually want to see and not what the data will show you. If you've fallen into this trap, you may do two things. On the one hand, you may want to end your test as soon as you saw the desired number or the desired result, something that you wanted yourself. For example, you saw that the version A works much more better than your version B. However, you haven't yet got enough visitors on both of your variations, so it's too early to end the result at this point. On the other hand, you may want to continue your test until you get the desired result. And even if you've already had enough visitors and the test has been running for, 3 months, you still want to continue it with all your heart because you still haven't seen what you want to see in the first place. That's why it's really important to block all your emotions at this point and simply rely on data and data alone. The last step is to write down all of your learnings. Keep record of all the A/B testing campaigns that you've ever run. Write a detailed explanation of what you've learned, what you should avoid for similar campaigns in the future, and what worked and what hasn't. Finally, let's talk about A/B testing for websites with really low traffic. First of all, only stick to testing high impact changes. Testing some, subsection of your website or some non-popular section of your website is not going to bring you a lot of results, and this will be simply a waste of time for you. Another thing that you can do is to focus on micro conversions. For example, things like sales or conversion rate is a bit too early to be added to your KPI list, so you can see the changes in impressions, in click-through rate, or in some website visits, for example. And another thing which I can't really recommend a lot, but it still may work for some, is to aim for lower significance setting. But remember what we discussed earlier, the higher your significance level is, the more reliable your result is. That was a lot of info to digest. I hope you learned a thing or two. I'm gonna add some of the useful reads on the topic in the description below, and happy A/B testing. I hope to see you in my next videos. Bye bye.